Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm super excited to have all of you hear Sandy's inspirational story on the other side of fear. As many of you know, this is the third one in the series that I've facilitated. And we talked about in the first one about relationships, and Emily shared about going through a divorce and the fears that came up, but the other side that she experienced freedom. And then Laura Luth was here and shared about her transition and her fears moving cross country, sending her daughter off to school and making transitions in her business. And I knew that the third one had to be about physical well-being, mental well-being, spiritual well-being, because we all have journeys in different aspects of our lives. So I thought, who am I going to reach out to that can inspire about going through the journey of health and well-being? And I immediately thought of Sandy, but I could not remember Sandy's name because I had done a reading with Sandy. Well, I've done multiple readings with you over the years, but I just couldn't make the connection. I knew it was a reading. I felt like I should have paid you after that session. I was so inspired. And then I went through all my emails, my calendar, and finally I'm like, it's Sandy, that's it. And she was so gracious to say yes. She wanted to do it tomorrow, but we're going on retreat tomorrow. And I said, ooh, do you think you can do it Thursday night? And she'll share how perfect the timing of this is. But I welcome anyone to ask any questions in the comments or share any of your experiences that connect with you. But I first want to welcome Sandy and say thank you for being here. And can you give us maybe a lead up to your journey of going through the cancer? Because I know there was some kind of aha moments that clicked after you reflected on everything. But go ahead. Why don't you share?
Okay, well, thanks. It's such a pleasure to be here with you tonight and to reconnect with you after so many years, really, because we do go back many years ago when I still lived in the Boston area. But I wanted to just a quick intro into my journey, because I think that one of the big parts of my cancer journey does evolve around my whole concept of self-love and self-care. That back in November of 2005, I fortunately knew something was wrong, as I was sitting at my kitchen counter, dining set, and I said, something's not right here. And I got myself to the emergency room. And, within seconds, there were nurses around me, doctors. I mean, it was crazy, and I ended up being admitted to the intensive care unit. And I had what they call a life-threatening case of angioedema, where my tongue was swelling. Literally, it was like the size of a cow's tongue, and and they kept saying, can you breathe? Can you breathe? And I said, and I'm shaking my head, yes. But when the doctor went to discharge me the next morning, she said, I don't want to scare you, but literally you came within probably 2 minutes of dying if you hadn't gotten yourself here. And she said, I also need to follow up with your primary care physician and have some allergy testing done. They may never find out what it is that you're allergic to, but at least have the testing. But also your cholesterol level's high, your blood pressure's high, your sugar is borderline, and you could lose about 40 pounds. My question to the doctor was, well, I'm supposed to be in Atlanta on Tuesday to do training. Is it okay if I get on a plane? And she looked at me like, are you kidding? And, so she said,
Looking back, do you think that was denial?
I think it was denial. I think it was also, what was most important to me in my life at the time was my job.
Wow.
And meeting obligations that I had to, for my colleagues. And so she said, yeah, you could, absolutely. You've got enough prednisone in you. You don't have to worry. You can, if you feel like flying, you can fly. And so I did.
So I just want to pause you for a second because
Yeah.
it sounds like you, at that point in your life, you were putting other people first, putting
Mhm.
responsibilities first,
Mhm.
putting the needs and the wants of work obligations
Mhm.
before your own well-being. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was, it was at least like maybe another 6 months later before luckily I woke up one morning and I said, you know what, you're 53. If you don't start taking care of yourself now, when are you going to? And so I committed and I became, the CEO of my own life, of my own body. And I said, I need to make the decisions for me that show that I love myself and that I'm gonna take care of myself. And that's on all different levels because if you don't take care of yourself physically, emotionally and spiritually, it can be thrown off as well. And so I came up, I first focused on healthy eating and exercising, and I lost 70 pounds. And 6 months later, I ran my first Disney half marathon.
Wow.
You can see some of my medal collection in the back there. Because my mantra at the time, exactly like my medal holder says, is she believed she could, and so she did.
Wow.
So that was my mantra at that time. And so from there, I kept adding things. I mean, I had been a meditator before, but it had gone by the wayside. But I got back into my meditation. I started gratitude practices, journaling, but also here's my gratitude jar, where every
Wow.
day on a different color piece of paper, I would write one thing that I was grateful for. And at the end of a year, I would dump them out, and it's amazing, to read back over them, and because it gives you that opportunity to be grateful again,
Yeah.
for things that you've forgotten. And so and I also started doing some different breathing practices, and taking the whole stress management piece and really learning how to set some boundaries.
That's huge,
So
right?
that was huge. That was
Yeah.
huge because I was always the person that would say yes.
Yep.
And so I had to really practice at being comfortable saying no.
Yeah. So I'm going
And
to
when you get
pause you there for a second because when I went through my cancer 25 years ago, it was the same exact. I had no boundaries. I was very, very good at taking care of everybody else and pleasing everybody else's needs.
Mhm,
And that was the one thing that was the most uncomfortable for me. But the one thing that I had to do was say no and set boundaries.
mhm,
So setting boundaries is a way to come back to yourself, but
mhm.
also a way to take care of yourself.
Right, right. I mean, because at the end of the day, what you're saying to people is, "I honor and value myself,
Right.
and
And
I
you're
need I
saying that
need
to
this."
you too.
Right.
It's not just saying it to other people, you're saying that to you. I honor
Mhm.
and value myself.
That's right. Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. And so by the, fast forwarding, I mean, it was really over the next 10, 12 years that I really, stayed committed to keeping those boundaries. Yes, I worked hard, but I also made sure that I took time to replenish, and do things, for myself. And, I kept up with my meditation and the gratitude and, just my whole outlook on life. And at the time, I was walking almost 4 miles every morning with a friend of mine, and felt really good. I mean, I was at this point in my life. It's like, yes, I got 2.5 more years, and I'll retire as a 50-year employee from the company, and everything. It was like I was on all five cylinders going. It was like boom, and then all of a sudden, it was like, oh, what is this pain in my left side? And long story short, what started out as what was considered a urinary tract infection, after another 4 days, I said, "Oh, this still is really painful." Got myself to the ER on Valentine's Day, 2020, and
Interesting.
went through all kinds of tests and blood work and whatever. And somewhere around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the ER doctor came in and said, pulled up, sat in the chair, and well, after looking at all of your test results and the lab work, we believe that you have cancer, and that it is most probably metastatic. Do you have any questions?
Oh, okay, so let's just pause there. So, because we're
No.
talking about, so in that moment, do you remember what was going through your thoughts, what you were feeling, or was it just a blur?
Well, I'm sitting there. My husband was with me. And at the time, my husband would have been 87 because he's older than I am. And I'm just concerned about him. I'm thinking, oh my God, he's just going to lose it here. If he even understands what's really happening, is he in denial, or is he hearing this? But the other thing is that in 2010, my mother was diagnosed with cancer on a Friday and passed away 48 hours later.
Oh
So
my
in my mind, I immediately go to that, and I'm thinking, oh my God, metastatic. Does that mean it's everywhere in my body like my mother's was? And oh my gosh, I have 48 hours to figure this all out. And, yeah. So it was,
a big trigger. Yeah.
it was huge. It was huge. And we went back, and, they were going to admit me. Then, no, we don't have an oncology, GYN person here. So we're going to send you home. And then all of a sudden, no, we're not sending you home. We're transporting you to the Winnie Palmer Hospital in Orlando. And I just remember being in the ambulance talking with this technician, and I thought I was in a movie. I said, it's just so surreal.
Yeah.
It's Valentine's Day. I'm supposed to be having, a nice dinner with my husband and whatever. And instead I'm in the back of an ambulance going to Orlando with this just like heavy sense of uncertainty.
Yeah.
No idea. Am I dying? Am I going to die this weekend? I mean, I had no idea. I mean, here it was, same thing, a Friday night, same with my mother. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Sandy, how did you move through? How did you get through the fear, the uncertainty, the unknown, the word cancer? I remember when they said that to me, I'm like, I was 34. I'm like, this word can't be in my vocabulary or coming out of my mouth at this age. How did you move through that? And what was it like?
What was interesting was, as I think back to it, I did reach out to, a few of my family members, and another, close friend of mine. And I said, I just have to put it into the hands of God. It's bigger than me.
Was there a turning point where you felt like, I need to surrender this fear, or do you remember a turning point?
Well, it really was that day. I mean, it was right then and there, because, here it was 11 o'clock at night, and I'm having a pelvic exam saying, this is so unreal. This is just not happening. And I think I'm just so petrified of everything. I had, other than that one night of being in the intensive care unit, I had never been in a hospital. I have never had surgery. Here I was almost 60. Well, I was 67 years old at the time. And I'm thinking, everything is so scary. I mean, just being in the hospital was absolutely frightening for me. And it was almost like it was almost hard to breathe. And I said, okay, you know what? I know I can't handle this alone. And I know I'm not alone in this, but I need to have that conversation, and that connection, with my source, who is God, to say, I need your help. I need to ask for help, because
Wow.
I don't have the power right now to really get through this and be able to relax.
I call that the moment of surrender, when you ask for divine grace to take over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I'm willing to do my part, but I know that I need it's bigger than me. It was bigger than me.
How many times did you have to go back to that?
Several times. Because when the doctor came in the next morning and was showing me all the different pictures and how invasive this really was, you know, I was like, whoa, this is real. This really is extremely serious. Now, I didn't know at that point what stage or anything like that it was, but I just knew from the pictures that it was, it was extensive, and with the tumor on the outside of the uterus. So, and the problem with that was it was pressing against my left ureter, and she was afraid that it might block it off and I could die of sepsis. So she said, I'm going to have a urology consult because I think we need to put a stent in there. So I did, in fact, the next day have, and it's a minor surgical procedure, but still, I mean, anesthesia, everything was absolutely frightening to me. Anything that beeps, anything, anything they were hooking me up to, I was like,
and I don't think doctors, I think nurses are much better, but I don't think doctors are good at handling somebody else's fear. They're not, that's not, they should be educated much more. For me, the nurses during my experience were the ones that were the comfort that I remember when I was in isolation, having high doses of radiation. I'll never forget the nurse. I felt like the divine had sent me an earth angel. And matter of fact, I ended up going back to the hospital and, giving her gifts and saying thank you. And she got me through it. And I believe when you go to that prayer in that fear, you've got to take over. You've got to send the help. And, the one thing I recommend when people go through health, mental, illness is to go to the divine and say, show me everything, bring anything to me that I need to support me, but bring me to anything that will support me. Like send the troops in. And, I don't know, you'll have to tell me what you experienced, but I have to say I couldn't keep track of all the coincidences and synchronicities that were there along the way. And I know it was there to bring comfort in the fear.
Yeah. So the night I get home from the hospital, I'm just going to, this is a little chalkboard thing that I have. Let me see, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I see it.
And I have that right. And I wrote that on the Sunday night when I got home, and I put that right at my bedside because
you wrote exactly that, faith over fear.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I found, I have a bracelet that says faith over fear, if you can see that. So I just surrounded myself with words, that positive words. And, I looked at that faith over fear every night, every morning. That became my new mantra.
Yeah.
And then when I finally 2.5 weeks later, I think, went to the doctors and found out that it was stage 3 cancer, and that there was lymph node involvement and whatever. And so she said, my recommendation is chemotherapy and she named off the solutions. And she said, but you're the patient, it's your choice. But I will tell you that I believe that if you don't do the chemo, I would give you about a year. So I said, oh, okay, that's an easy choice. I'll do the chemo. And I made a deal with my friend Deborah, who's a nurse, whose husband had just passed away the year before from pancreatic cancer. I said, I'll do one, but if I'm like really sick and, whatever, and the image that you have of, cancer patients going through chemo, I said, I might want to call it quits. And she said, that's your choice. Okay. So all along, it was always my choice.
Yeah. So
I was in control.
I am hearing, I'm getting chills as I'm thinking about this. But first of all, you put these anchors around the house, on your wrist, on your body. You put it around the house to help you remember what you wanted to choose when you forgot, right? So, and then I heard that, when you said that to your friend, it's almost like I hear, and don't take what I'm saying. You tell me your perspective, but what I'm witnessing is I'm going going to empower myself to take one step at a time and make the choice
Mhm.
after the step. Is that correct?
Yep.
That it, in a way, I feel like that's the way you could take back your power.
Right. Right. Because at any time I could say, okay, I've had enough.
Right.
And I knew that. And I knew that, you know, I knew that I had the support of my family and my friend Deb, who would every time would say, it's your choice. And they would honor whatever choice I had. Of course, they didn't want me to not do stuff, but you know, but then, so when I started my chemo, again, words are for me, are very powerful. And so I have these, what are they called? Notes to self socks. And this one on the toe, it says, I am strong. And then it says strong on the bottom. So I had strong. I had courageous.
Wow.
Let me see this way. Believe. You can't see them, but believe and grateful was another pair. One was hope, and one was optimistic. And every treatment, I had a different pair of socks that I would put on. And of course, they would say to me, okay, you can put those on long enough and you can take a picture of your feet with them on. But then if you get up to go to the bathroom, you have to have the ones with the little rubber soles on the bottom. But anyway, but they all got a kick out of my socks. But it kept me focused, through the whole thing. I'm looking down at my toe saying, I am strong. I am courageous. I am great. I am grateful. And I would take a picture. My friend Deb would take a picture of the bottom of my feet, because that's where the words show. And that's what I used to send my messages to everybody. So my first one was I am strong. And that's how I sent messages to everybody. Okay, treatment number 1 went okay. And it was a picture of my feet.
Sandy, that's what I was going to ask you too, because I found when I went through my cancer, because I'm such an empath, it was harder for me sometimes. I knew what was going on with me in my body, well, as much as I knew, but other people around me felt so helpless. And that was really challenging for me. And I'm wondering how that everybody else's fear, how did that affect you, and how did you handle everybody else's fear?
Everybody, and this is whether it was, and I didn't tell a lot of people at work. There were probably only 2 people at work that knew, my boss and one other person. And then it was close friends. And it was really, as people called me just out of almost like the clear blue to say, hey, how's everything going? Then I'd be like, okay, well, I have something I need to share. I mean, I wasn't just calling out to people. But everybody, that would call, because they knew my schedule, and they would check in with me to see how everything went, or I'd send them the message and then they'd call, and everybody kept saying the same thing. You sound so positive. You sound so strong, that I think I helped everybody else.
Yeah. What about your husband?
Frankly, I never said, why me? Never said, why me?
I can't say
I wasn't sure why I was given this, but I said, you know what? That's not the question I should be asking.
Wow. But I'll just for other people that do, I mean, I was like, why me? 34 years old, why me?
Yeah.
But the why me question, that obviously comes from, wanting to know, but also, feeling, I was in my stuff. Do you know what I mean? But how did your husband, what about his fear? How did you handle that?
Well, my husband was diagnosed with cancer that May. So I was dealing with him and taking care of him.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There is a prayer, you're never given more than you can handle, but come on.
And then I almost lost him because so he had stage 4 prostate cancer, but it had metastasized to the spine. And so he had pain, so he had the pain. The pain doctor put him on 800 milligram Motrin, in the morning and at night or whatever. And so then a month into that, so the end of June, he and my nephew went to Boston for a week, and then he came back. And I'll never forget it, because on July 6th, he woke up on that Monday and he said, "Oh, I had a really good night's sleep, felt really good, blah, blah, blah." And then I was still working, and he went in to take a nap. And when he, I went in to bring him in some lightweight pants to put on when he got up, and he said, "I tried to get up a little while ago, and I was lightheaded." So anyway, long story short, he got up, and there was just blood everywhere.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, "You got to be kidding me, God. I know you don't give me more than I can handle, but really?"
Yeah.
I'm going through chemotherapy, and now my husband is throwing up massive amounts of blood. And so, it's like 911, get him there. They called me. Well, I was in the ER with him till about 7:00 at night. And I think when they lifted him up, that they popped his left hip out, because he had hip replacements done 25 years ago. And anyway, so he's in the intensive care unit. He was in the ER, and they said, the doctor called me at 9:30 to say, "Well, I'm still having problems with his blood pressure, blah, blah, blah." I had my niece, who's a nurse, call him, and they were going to put a central line in. That was okay. At 11 o'clock, quarter past 10 or 10:30, he called back and said, "I just wanted to let you know, in case you wanted to be here with your husband, that I don't think he's going to make it through the night."
Wow.
I'm like, "Okay, you've got to be kidding me." After, dealing with all that I'm going through, and now I potentially am driving to the hospital to say goodbye to my husband. So this was with my friend Deb, my nurse friend. And I'm like, "Deb, I can't, this is like, this is almost like my tipping point here, Deb." It was crazy.
Oh, again,
When we got there,
how did you get through it?
He went from being unresponsive in the ER to sitting up gabbing to the nurses in the ICU. So, I couldn't see him anyway, because he had been COVID tested, because he had just come back from Boston. But, I said, "Okay, I'm digging deeper now. I need an even bigger entourage of people to help me through this." So, Archangel Mike, I'm going to take Michael, Raphael. I'll take anybody and everybody that's willing to come and be part of my community here, because I'm really, stressing at this point. But it took my mind off of me, because I was more concerned, with him, because then he did end up spending like 4 weeks in a rehab after he got out of the hospital. So,
well, maybe you needed that to take care of you. Do you know what I mean? Instead of taking care of him. So what has, I name this on the other side of fear, because many times when I'm going through and being of support, or a coach or a guide for people when they're going through their challenges and their transformations and the unknown, I always ask, when they're on the other side, what does the other side of fear look like for you?
For me, the other side of fear, and what I knew I had to bring into my own life through this, was I had to get to that level of having inner peace. And I remember sitting in my living room and thinking to myself, "Okay, if this was my time to go," because at that point I'm like, I don't know whether the chemo is going to work or not work or whatever. But I sat there, and I remember telling one of my good friends, and I said, I was at peace. I had no regrets. I was content with my life. Yes, would I like it to be, many more years? Yeah, yes. But I didn't sit there feeling, "Oh my God, I never did this, or I never did that, or, how come now?" I really was able to get myself to that place of peace. And that was such a turning point.
Yeah.
Because
so
then
did it just happen, or did that moment just happen, or do you feel like your journey got you to that place?
I think it was when there was so much happening all at once, between myself, and what my husband was going through and the uncertainty of all of that and what he was even going to be like when he came out of rehab, that I just, it was, when I think about really true surrender, I think I really reached that point where I said, I know I'm strong, and, and I know that, I have a very strong faith. But right now I need to get myself to a place of being in inner peace, or it could eat away at me.
So do you feel
I had to really conquer it, and with my thoughts and with my prayers, and with everything that I had within me, I had to just say, being in a state of fear or high anxiety, all that's doing is robbing me of energy. And as a cancer patient, I needed to retain my energy.
right?
I mean, I was already losing my energy to chemo treatments, um, and said, I need to take charge here somehow and be able to gather that energy back into myself,
Do you
because I
feel
needed that for my healing, as well.
do you feel it was almost a moment of combination between surrender and accepting right where you were at?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a turning point that got me to say, I need to be in the present moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
can't,
what I
I
felt.
can't look back, and I can't look forward, because there's a lot of, uncertainty out there. I need to be in the present moment and say, right now, how am I feeling and how am I dealing with right now?
And Sandy, I really think you have a big piece of what gets you to peace
Hmm.
is when we finally drop into the present moment and let go of the fear, accept that moment. And
Hmm.
that's when all of a sudden it's like, and I really do. I feel like that's where we come to peace within ourselves.
Hmm. And I'll show, these are my favorite little, I don't know if you can see the gratitude
Yeah.
sunglasses.
Yeah.
Yes. Because what I found myself doing is saying, instead of talking about, what I'm afraid might happen or could happen or should, whatever, I just had to say, what am I grateful for right now?
Yeah.
And right now, I don't have any nausea. I'm not vomiting. I was really kind of I was like a role model cancer patient, by the way, going through chemo. My only side effect was losing my hair. Really, I had no other side effects. I had a couple of days of queasiness, but that was it. Um, but when I say, when I say that my journey was anything but a straight road, you know, my surgery was scheduled for like 3 weeks. It would have been 3 weeks after my last chemo treatment, and went for the PET scan the week before, and all set to go for surgery, which I, by the way, was petrified of, absolutely petrified. I was trying to be in the present moment, but I kept thinking, I've never been cut. I've never had to recuperate. What do you mean 6 weeks? I mean, people tell you their war stories, by the way. I don't know why they do that in them, at that time, but they do. But when my PET scan came back, and the doctor, came in, sat on her little chair, wheeled over and said, I don't like what I see. And I said, what? She said, we can't do surgery. The tumor has not shrunk enough. And it was in such a risky place, near a major artery. She said, I can't operate yet. It was like you took the balloon and you popped it,
Such a
and,
roller coaster ride.
and I said, and I am a life coach. So I said to myself, okay, you got to be your own coach here. Within 30 seconds, I said, so what's next? Because I had to bring myself. I said, I can either spiral down and live and be in pain here, or I just need to move forward. And I said, all right, so what's next? So then, luckily, I was a candidate for immunotherapy, which is very similar to going for a chemo treatment. It's just that what it's doing is it's helping your body to build up its own, inner, resistance and ability to fight off, the cancer cells. So we did that, went for another PET scan, and that came back that, yes, it had shrunk, but not enough. So then it was another round of immunotherapy, in fact, 8 sessions this time. And then on top of that, 33 radiation treatments with the highest voltage of radiation a human body can be given. And I remember I said to my friend Deb, I'm just praying this time that after this PET scan, I hear we're ready for surgery. And she said, did you just hear yourself? I mean, I had gone 360 from, oh my God, I don't want surgery, to I'm praying that I hear that I can have surgery.
How did you handle the disappointment?
Because again, what I said to myself was, if this was somebody else going through this, and I was their friend or a coach or whatever, what would I say to them? And I had to say it to myself.
Wow.
You can't give up. You just got to keep going. You've come this far. You haven't come this far to stop. And you need to just keep going. And it's the next thing and then the next thing. And I think the longest, for me, the longest haul of the journey was the 6 weeks of radiation every day at 1:00, Monday through Friday. But then when I, and I had real fatigue after the radiation. That was the first time I really had true fatigue. And I know the difference now between being tired and really being fatigued, because I would take the wash out of the washing machine, put it in the dryer, and then literally my body would shut down. It was like, okay, you need to go lie down. That's it. Yeah. That's all you can do. Yeah. But yeah, I just kept saying, you know what? I've been this strong all along. I've been a believer all along, and I just had to keep going back to all my messages around the house, the faith over fear, the strength, the gratitude, I'm blessed. I have that everywhere throughout my house, and say it's not just a sign, it's what I truly do believe internally. And so, I just have to keep going. Now, I knew at the end of radiation that would have been the end of the road. I don't think there would have been something else that I could have done after that. But thank goodness, I was ready for the surgery. And then the surgery really was I won't say it was nothing, but it wasn't anything like people had told me, or I had, these wild anticipated things about,
we create all this in our mind, right?
Yes. All the things that we worry about. 95% of the things that we worry about in life never even happen.
Right.
And so and I kept reminding myself about that. It's like, you know what? You can't worry about it because you don't know. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
I had to say, you know what? You went through chemo without ever throwing up. I mean, come on, everybody's different.
So tell everyone where you were today.
Oh, well, yesterday it was actually pretty ironic when you called on Monday and asked me to do this, because I said, oh my gosh, this is so funny. This is, talk about synchronicity. I'm going for a follow-up PET scan this week. And I said, oh, okay, that's going to be on Wednesday. She wants me to interview on Thursday. And I was originally supposed to have an appointment with my doctor this morning, but because of our tropical storm, the clinic was, a lot of stuff in Orlando area was closed today. So, but yesterday I did go for, PET scan number, I think it was 5. And, and I'm driving home. And then this morning, because we do have, it's called My Chart. So it's a patient portal. You can go out and get all your test results, et cetera. So I got this email this morning saying, oh, you have a new test result, in My Chart. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, do I go out and look at it or do I not look at it? Because I now I can't meet with my doctor till next Thursday. But I said, what if I write, if I open it and it's not good news and I'm going to be interviewing tonight, is that going to show, that, oh my God, look, what a disappointment or whatever. But anyway, I said, you know what? Faith over fear, you just got to do it. Putting it off isn't going to change what's on the chart. It's there. So just, put on your big girl, socks and be strong and just do it. And so I went and I opened it up and I read it and I'm like, okay. And I got in the car. It was pouring rain here, but I got in the car because my neighbor, my friend Deb lives right around the corner. And I went in and I said to her, okay, now you read it and let me know what you read. So anyway, so then of course, we were high-fiving and hugging and saying, yay, another positive test result. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
So I want to ask you just a couple more questions.
Mhm.
So obviously somebody's watching that is going through cancer right now. And she said, needing to be in the present moment. What would you share with her now that you're on the other side? What would you share with because we're always going to have moments of fear and challenge, right? What would you say to yourself if another moment of fear or challenge come up? And what would you say to other people that are in the midst of it?
Well, because there is fear. Every time you go for a scan, there's fear. In fact, there is a name for it. Scanxiety. It's really anxiety around a scan. I listened to this on a podcast just the other day, and I said, "Oh, wow, I never knew there was such a thing." But it's really anytime you're going for a reassessment with your oncologist, it opens up that whole feeling again of the vulnerability. What's there? Is there anything there? Let's hope I hear no evidence of disease. But so there is this thing, and so I Googled it, and and it's like, oh yeah, and here are some things you can do: keep busy, meditate, just do things for other people, just to get your mind off of the scan, and I said, And as I was driving there yesterday, because I've never driven myself to the scan, but my friend Deb's going through breast cancer. So anyway, I'm driving myself and I just kept saying, okay, thank you, God, for helping me stay in the moment. Right now, I'm in the moment. I'm driving. So I've got to focus on driving. And, I'm driving and it's not yet pouring rain. So that was good. So I was just looking for everything good along the way, pulling up and being able to valet park and all so just finding little things in every single moment that I could hold on to and just say, I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
And just breathe and really breathing through it and being open. I mean, I was open with the technician to say, hey, did you know there's such a thing as called scanxiety? And he said, are you afraid? And I said, no, I'm not afraid. This is my fifth one, but no, but it's just, there's always like that. Oh, what's it going to say? But
so one more question. Now that you're in this moment, if you could go back and give a message to yourself when you were going through the scariest part, what would you say to yourself?
Take a deep breath, surrender, and ask for help.
Beautiful.
I've always been one of the things that was a learning for me through this whole, journey was I've always been a giver. I've not been a good receiver. And yet all of a sudden, and I live in a 55 plus community, people were coming with flowers, cards, homemade soup. My 93-year-old neighbor across the street made me, a meatloaf and mashed potatoes. And she was so proud to come to the door because I normally would make her at least 2 meals every week. But to be on that receiving end, it just you just open your heart to receiving. And, and when that's the other thing is don't go it alone. Community is so, so important. And whether it's people in this community or whatever communities that you have, that absolutely makes a difference.
Yeah. And when people feel helpless, those are the things that they can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not only you allowing to receive for yourself, but you allowing them to give is a gift to them, right? Because
I've often said, as a giver, and I know you're a giver, I would say, because in our women's group when I was working, I would, we would do workshops, and I would say, don't deny people the opportunity to help you.
Yeah.
Because think about when you help somebody, when you're of service to somebody else, right? How good that makes you feel. It's
Yeah.
like this joy that, kind of grows in your heart, and you just say, oh, that felt so good to do
Yeah.
that. You
Yeah.
know, isn't that wonderful that I'm grateful that I had that opportunity to cook for my 93-year-old neighbor or whatever it is. So don't deny people the opportunity to do that for you, because if you do, you're robbing them of having that good feeling.
And look how you inspired Debbie. You are so inspiring. I have cancer as well. You are helping me have courage that I need. You're amazing and strong. Thank you. Oh my goodness. See, I mean, that's part of, and I want to ask you, what do you want to really cherish? What is the feeling you really want to cherish in your life right now?
I will say that when I got getting diagnosed with cancer really opens your heart, your soul, your mind to really looking and saying what is really important in life.
Yeah.
Because I remember sitting in my living room that first Sunday night and thinking, yeah, I have a lot of things. I have a lot of nice things. And I can even tell you who gave me almost everything that I might have. But I said, they're things. It's just like so not important in the big scheme in life. And so it really is all about moments that we share with people,
Yeah.
times that we can be there, to help somebody else. Times when, you might have a positive impact on somebody because they heard you say something and you don't even know that you had a positive impact on them.
And one of the things I think I really heard tonight, uh, that it's about being present, being present to receive, being present to be grateful, being present to surrender, being present to, experience helping others, receiving from others, being present,
And
being
it's all
present
and loving, and really it's all about that self-love.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
I live in that present moment, and when I can say, I'm doing what I can to take care of myself.
Yeah.
I'm allowing others into my life in a way that maybe I never did before. But I'm honoring and respecting and loving myself, in every day. And to really, we've often heard, that every day is a gift. But when you're faced with maybe not having a day, I mean, even on my worst day, I'd say, I'm alive. This
Yeah.
is good. This is good. It's not an easy day. I hated, I have dancing veins. They have a hard time finding my veins. And so, I mean, I had little baby heel warmers. I had, hot towels trying to get, so that they only had to poke me once. But even in that moment, and a visualization was huge for me too. My friend Deb would say, okay, just close your eyes, pretend you're at the beach. And I would have my headphones on with the wave sounds going and, whatever, because, that was, in the moment, I was at the beach, not being stabbed, to have an IV put in my arm. And then the other part of the gratitude, and I know you said that you did this as well, but after every round of treatments that I had. So after my first 6 chemos, after my 6 immunotherapy, and the next 8, I had thank you cards and gift cards for the staff that was taking care of me, because I truly did. As you said, I was like, thank you, God, for sending me these angels. And even if it was the, nurse assistant or whatever that brought me my ginger ale, with a little splash of cranberry. I mean, I just love this guy. And I would do these special, handwritten notes the names on the outside with big funky letters. And he goes, I'm gonna hang this envelope in my living room. He says, I love this. I love this. I love the card, and thank you for the gift card, but I love the envelope. But people, it's just showing that appreciation.
Yeah.
When people are of service to you. And even with my doctor, I said to the staff, I would walk to California for that woman.
Oh. I saw that you joined Awaken My True Self. And what made you make that choice? Like, what is joining the community about for you, coming back to yourself and continuing that journey of connecting to yourself, self-care, really getting to know who you are and
You
what
know,
you're choosing?
I think it's like anything, and I'll share that throughout my, what's been now almost 2.5 years. I never stopped self-development. I've always been committed to being a lifetime learner. I've taken classes. I've done Year of Miracles with my good friend Marcy Shimoff. In fact, I was just on her, retreat last weekend for 4 days. Because I think it's like anything. I learned transcendental meditation in 1976. It was like the thing to do, right? And then, my brother and sister-in-law and some of our friends, we were not, mid-20s. So we would do the 20-minute meditation in the morning and at night or whatever. But then all of a sudden, stuff happens, life happens, and you get busy with work and your career and whatever, and that kind of went away. And so for me, joining this community all around self-love and getting to your greatest inner self is because what we focus on grows.
Yeah.
And it's not like you can just say, oh yeah, no, I got to self-love. That's good. Okay. What am I on to next? It's a lifetime process, truly.
And community too. I think,
and you don't want to go back.
and I think the community is a big part of it too, that you really, you have, it's not just about, you have something to share in the community too. Look what you're sharing tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you've shared with me that this is really, you feel a sense of purpose now that you've gone through that journey and come to the other side. You feel a sense of purpose about, I think you're developing a class about self-love and self-care, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a friend of mine said, Sandy, I want to connect you with a gal that I went to high school with because she's going through breast cancer right now. And I just think you would be such an inspiration for her. So she connected us via Messenger. And then I said to my friend, Jody, can you send me her address? And within 48 hours, I had a Faith Over Fear bracelet delivered to her door.
Again,
it's a little thing that can make a difference for somebody. Right. Somebody else can look at their wrist and say, faith over fear, faith over fear. And I remember somebody going through that, but faith over fear. When I'm in doubt, faith over fear puts me in that present moment.
And you're passing the gems of what supported you, faith over fear, and sharing in supporting somebody else because you were supported as well. It's just so beautiful. I can't thank you enough, Sandy, for sharing your story and for inspiring others. I just think this whole series was birthed in me taking a leap of faith and opening the doors to Awaken My True Self community. And I was just saying to one of my team members today, I said, this is something that was so unexpected, but is so much a part of what I feel is going to take place in this community. And I want, not only do I want to inspire, but I want to bring together other people that can bring inspiration to transform fear into miracles. And that's absolutely what you did. And I just want to thank you for your courage. Thank you for your sharing. And you're a beautiful soul. And I know you're going to continue to help others, help those in the community. And I just want to share.
And anybody that's on here, and I don't know how you would get me their information, but anybody that's on here that is going through cancer, who would, want a Faith Over Fear bracelet, if there was a way that you can get me names and if they're willing to give their address, I am more than happy to send them one.
Yeah. Would you be okay with people having your email address to email you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What's your email address?
It's sclarkmartin@yahoo.com.
sclarkmartin
at Yahoo.
Yahoo.
Yeah, because if anybody wants to send me a note and with their address, I'm more than happy to send them one.
Sandy will graciously share in faith.
Yep. I have that one, and then I have my necklace is actually she believed she could, and so she did. So those are both, those are my two mantras of.
Wow. What's your other mantra? I didn't hear it because I was typing.
She believed she could, so she did.
Ah, beautiful.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sandy. I just want to one more thing. If you do feel called to be a part of Awaken My True Self community, doors are closing tomorrow, 11/11 at 11/11 tomorrow night.
Ooh.
So get your registration in to be a part of this amazing community. And Sandy, you are a gift, and you will continue to be a gift for many. And congratulations on your clear scan. Yay! And just
thank you.
To live in the present moment and sharing those gifts of gratitude and grace with others. Thank you. And thank you everybody for listening in. And I can't imagine that you're not inspired and you got your gems of wisdom tonight for your own journey. So blessings, everyone. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.